Hello and welcome to the Westcity Church podcast. If you'd like to get to know us more, find us at westcitychurch.com.au. We really hope that you're encouraged by today's message.
Hello. Petition to rename communion to, the communion talk to communion? No? Or I think our Gen Alphas have disappeared, but communiap, is that a bit more appropriate? So I think most of the kids have run away, but I was going to say for communion this week, just to honour school holidays, it's been a big term if they'd like to come forward first and receive communion with their parents, but they've all run away, so that's fine. So I got a message from Lauren a few Mondays ago asking me to jump in for communion this week, and I said yes. And then I thought back to when I'd last done a communion talk. And then I thought, that's interesting, because the day before she'd asked me, I actually got up to leave during communion because I was getting all Martha thinking about the many other things I had to do other than sitting at the feet of Jesus. So the call to the table was given and I scurried out. And I've been being a good girl and parking, I feel like the mic sounds weird. Thanks, Josh. And I parked my car a street away so as to not upset the neighbours. Anyway, I got to my car and I couldn't unlock it because I left my keys right here where I'd been sitting. So I came back to church and awkwardly scooted back down the aisle, grabbed my keys and ran out again. And that's who's supposed to talk to you about communion today. Last time I spoke about how inadequate I was feeling in just about every area of my life, and I'm certainly feeling in a better place than I was a couple of months ago, but my attempting to run from communion the other week really revealed my tendency to turn inwards and to focus on me, myself, and I. I think communion is like microdosing on an antidote to that self-sufficiency. Later in the service, we're invited to the table. In Luke's gospel, Jesus is at the table, he breaks bread, gives it to his disciples and says, "Do this in remembrance of me." And of course, this scene happens in the context of Jesus sitting at the table with his disciples sharing a meal. So when we come to the table today, someone will offer you Jesus' body and his blood, and this meal is an interaction, it's not just a grab and go. So as you open your hands and receive communion today, I invite you to lean into that receiving part. That's all.
I'll need my keys if that's okay. This is week 2, as you've heard, of a 7-part series called The Life of Liturgy, and I'm going to try something I've never done before. Rather than speak about music, I'll music about music, if that's okay. And I'm going to invite you to be involved a little as well as we go. The series is about exploring how what we do shapes who we're becoming. And music has featured so strongly throughout my 50 years. In fact, some of my most significant humiliations have happened around music, as well as holy moments. I was in a band, a trio. It was a duo first, then became a trio. We toured over. It was a very short lifespan, but anyway, we toured over to Toowoomba. We were playing at the Australian Gospel Music Festival, and the act before us on this big stage in the middle of what was the equivalent of Hay Street Mall is the act before us is the Jive Express. Anyone remember them from? Okay, yeah. So big band, 10-piece sort of Jamiroquai vibe, bringing the party, and the street is going off. It is absolutely thumping, and there, standing at the side of stage, are 3 blokes who are questioning the meaning of life at this point. And we're country, ballad, folky kind of vibe, blues vibe, and we look at each other and we're like, how do we hold this? How do we? There's no competing with this. And so what I did was I said to and the drummer Gav Kerr, not Gav Carroll, Gav Kerr, and we conspired. We said we can't compete. Let's go with humour. And so the guitarist Mark Gordon was like, "No, we're not doing that." And we're like, "Yeah, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. It'll be hilarious." So we get up on stage, and the gag is this: we get up and we start playing a Whitney Houston song, "I Believe the Children Are Our Future," but I sing it out of key, and Gav comes in out of time, and it sounds like this: "I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way." So then I do that, except there's a power surge, and the sound system goes out mid-phrase. Like I'm 4 bars in and it just goes dead. And I'm trying to explain that it's a joke. But it was like Moses parted the sea. The crowd of 1,000 to 1,500 dispersed. And the stage manager came up and went, "You've got 1 song left." We had 6 to play. We were gutted, and we never pulled that gag again. I believe that... No, I'm not going to do it again. But anyway, so humiliations are a part of music for me. But then when I was about 12, 13 years old, music impacted me in a different way, in a way where the Spirit was involved. I was going to Churchlands Christian Fellowship when it used to meet in the old cafeteria at Edith Cowan University in Churchlands. And this was in the middle of my parents' separation and then divorce. And it was a horrific time for me as a kid. And I hadn't been around charismatic kind of circles before, grown up at what was Scarborough Church of Christ. It was pretty traditional. And we're singing this song at the end of a sermon, and there's no one praying for me. There's no hype about the moment. It's just this song. And I still remember it 37 years on. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord has risen. The glory of the Lord has risen upon thee. And I'm singing this song, and as a 12, 13-year-old whose heart is full of pain and question, and all of a sudden I feel like what is this electric current goes through my body, but it wasn't painful. It wasn't like pins and needles, and all of a sudden I couldn't stand, and I fell back into my chair. I had no idea what was going on. And one particular older lady, Timsy, you'll probably remember her, Hilda, came up, and she started to, I remember her praying for me, and all I could do, I couldn't move. I was pinned to the ground. And I just remember hot tears burning down the sides of my face. And I remember her saying these words, or along the lines of these words. And she didn't know my story. And it was just her saying, "I really believe Jesus is just wanting you to know he's with you in your pain." It was such a profound moment, because I've always wrestled, even years on, with cynicism and sarcasm and even some suspicion about the work of the Spirit. There's one memory I can't get away from. It's like God shipwrecked my life right at that moment, probably knowing maybe some of the things I was going to face that may harden my heart at points. But then even more recently, when I first spoke here at Westcity, and I never thought I'd speak again, and I was sharing some of the story about our daughter's health. And 23, 24, it was just such a hard season for our family, and for our daughter in particular, and moments where we were watching her in a hospital bed and feeling so helpless and no words to speak, struggled to sing, struggled to pray. But there was this one song that always just helped put words to the ache we were feeling in our heart and the hope that mingled with that. And the words were, when I am lost inside my mind, sing me the hope I cannot find. When my despair has left me blind, sing me the tune I've left behind. Will you sing over me? Will you sing over me? Sing of the goodness I cannot see. Will you sing over me? That song helped get us through in so many ways, and it's a song I couldn't sing. It's the first time I've been able to sing it, to be honest. So, I've been playing piano and singing most of my life. I've spent years leading people in worship and church and gospel choir settings, and there's been weddings and pub gigs and funerals and parties, not together, and corporate gigs. But what I keep coming back to about music is that music is far more than being just about music. There's so much more happening in music, especially in this space, especially in the church setting. There's so much more happening in music than just the music itself. In case you're not familiar with music theory, and I'm not going to go into it to any great depth, but and excuse for sorry for the musos who have to put up with this, but if you're not familiar with it, in Western music there are 12 notes, and these 12 steps, we move through them and we get to number 12, and then the next step is exactly where we began before. No rounding, no approximation, it's just there. Perfect, just works. Now, what's really interesting is that happening in between each note, these 12 notes, within that octave, that each note above the next is exactly 6% higher in frequency than the note before. And then, when we get to that 12th note, we're exactly double the frequency of the same note below. And the doubling isn't just human invention, it's simply some of the mathematical and scientific beauty behind music. Now, in 1967, jazz saxophonist John Coltrane, there he is there, he handed a fellow musician the drawing that you can see on the right. It almost looks like a clock face. It's a circle divided and subdivided, mapping the relationships between all 12 of those notes that I just played before. Coltrane, it became known as Coltrane's Circle of Tones, but Coltrane himself, he'd built it from a standard piece of music theory called the circle of fifths, where notes are, it's the interval, 5 notes apart. And Coltrane took it, pushed it even further, weaving his own study of physics and Indian music systems, and people looked at this picture, this diagram, and everything that sat within it. And they didn't just see musical theory. One musician who studied the drawing said it felt like a musical system connected with the divine. And Coltrane himself, when he was asked what his music actually was, didn't reach for a technical answer. He said this quote, "My goal is to live a truly religious life and express it in my music. If you live it, when you play, there's no problem because the music is part of the whole thing. To be a musician is really something. It goes very, very deep. My music is the spiritual expression of what I am. My faith, my knowledge, my being. A working musician and a mathematician's diagram. A man who saw no contradiction between precision and presence, structure and spirit, between forms and faith. And he said you needed both for it to be fully meant. Now, when I was in my 20s, I was introduced to the other side of the Coltrane coin. Not the cycle of fifths, but the cycle of fourths. And this is in particular, this is quite cool because in blues and jazz, that's where we get our famous 2-5-1 progression. So that progression, if you've heard that, that's the 2-5-1, and it's built on the maths of fourths. Now, what happens in the maths of fourths, if you can see from my diagram there, you can see that the notes in the bass will go up by 4. Now, there is a point to this. So if we just take those 4 in the progression, it works across all 12, nothing repeated. Now, in a triad, 3 notes, and a triad is built off these 3 notes, note 1, note 3, and note 5. But then if we know our odd numbers, we know there's one more to add. If we wanted to add a 4th note, that would be 1, 3, 5. Thank you, 7. Now, in the cycle of fourths, if I play the 1 in the bass, and I play the 7, next slide. Thanks, next slide. Yep, no, all good. The bottom note there is a 7, and the top note is a 3. Now, what's really cool is if we move to the next one, all I'm going to do is I'm going to slide the right hand down 1 semitone. And you can follow those slides along. So, all I'm doing is I'm just moving these notes 1 semitone down. Now, if I join the bass note in fourths moving up, it sounds like this. What goes up must come down. Cycle of fourths. Spinning wheel, got to go round. Talking about the troubles, it's a crying sin. Ride a painted pony, let the spinning wheel turn. So there's the cycle of fourths. Now, what's really cool about the mathematics of this is that in the right hand, we've got 7, 3. Next chord, they switch over. 3, 7, 7, 3, 3, 7. Well, before there was a 6, 7, there was a 3, 7, 7, 3, 3, 7. You know, see what I'm doing here? This is the beauty of the maths, and it works. Somehow it works, and it's beautiful because, you know, music is more than just music. But, you know, the maths is cool, but it doesn't explain why a chord can make you cry. The structure accounts for order, but it says nothing about the shiver. The maths is just one way of saying that music is about far more than music, but then there's also something in the structure of music itself that points beyond itself, points to connection and fullness and relationship, dynamic relationship. Like, here's one note, complete by itself. But something's missing. So we add a 5th. And now there's a relationship between the two, and you can hear a tension between them. But still not quite whole. So we add a 3rd. And there it is, 3 distinct notes. Each with their own frequency, its own identity, its own place in the harmonic series, and yet what they make together, they can't make alone. You can't reduce it to any one of them, because as soon as you do, something's missing. Remove one note and the chord collapses. Now, you may have heard of different analogies for the Trinity. It's a concept that I've found really difficult to get my head around. And so we reach for analogies like ice and liquid and water, or steam, ice, liquid, steam. But it doesn't really work because water is the base substance of all three. It's like one wearing a different hat, a different costume, and that's not the picture of the Trinity. That's actually modalism, which was the church saw as an early heresy. The idea that the Father and Son and Spirit were just modes of one God, like costumes. But a triad is closer to the truth, I think. Three distinct persons, one divine chord. And the relationship between the three is not incidental to who God is. There's a sense in which the relationship is who God is. The harmony is the thing itself. That God is love. Music's not just a tool we use to worship. Music offers in its very structure a picture of the God we worship. A physical thing that points beyond itself to something it can't fully contain. It's cool. I think it's cool. It's a rhetorical question, but is it okay if I keep going? Okay, cool. Because Clark Pinnock, I mean, you're allowed to answer that question no in your head, okay? There's a theologian that I love. He's no longer with us, but he was one of the most important evangelical theologians of the last century, I think. You may never have heard of him, but his name was Clark Pinnock, and he wrote this beautiful, one of his books, which I highly recommend. It's called Flame of Love, and it's his theology on the Holy Spirit. And in this book, he tries to recover something that he feels the Western church has lost. It's the understanding that the Spirit works through physical things. Embodied, communal life. Not around those physical things, but through them. He talks about sacraments. And I'm going to put a quote up of one of the things that he says about sacraments. He says, sacraments, material signs, foster the relationship between God and creatures. They help us approach the incomprehensible mystery. I love this line. And they make invisible grace tangible. Sacraments exist simply because we are bodily creatures inhabiting a material world, and I am a material girl. No, he doesn't actually say that. The world reflects God's glory. And here's this line. Therefore, anything can mediate the sacred where there are eyes to see and ears to hear. He pushed back on this legacy called dualism, the tendency in us to, and particularly in Protestant Christianity, to drive a wedge between matter and spirit, between the physical act and the spiritual reality, as if the body was just a vehicle that the soul is temporarily stuck in, as if what happens in a room with voices and breath and presence was just symbolic, cold symbolism of something more real happening somewhere else. But Pinnock says, no. That the Spirit speaks through human voices. The Spirit feeds us through bread and wine. The Spirit washes us in the waters of baptism. Spirit isn't the physical is not an obstacle to the Spirit. It's the place where the Spirit meets us. And I think that's the same with music. See, in music, two things happen. When we sing together and start warming up your vocal cords, because you're about to do it, okay? But when we sing together, two things happen simultaneously, and both of them matter. First, we bring our voices. And obviously, we bring our bodies as well. Our breath, our posture, our nervous systems are all part of the deal. We bring our heart rates, our breath rate. We bring our emotional states. We bring the weight from the week. We bring the argument that hasn't resolved. We bring the grief that no one else in the room knows about yet. We bring our words. We bring our stories. We bring our judgments. The judgments we hold about ourselves, about others, about the world, about God. And as you can see in that diagram there, our way of being in the world is shaped by the integration, the overlap of these three things. The language, the words we're running silently about ourselves, about others, about God, about the world, and then the emotional space that puts us in, and how we hold those stories and then that emotion in us physiologically. But not only that, we don't just bring that. You know, if you change just one of those things, one of those three, the others begin to shift. Which means I don't just think my way to transformation. My whole self has to be engaged. It has to be an embodied experience. Which is why I think liturgy exists. It's why repetition is not just empty routine, it's formative practice. We don't sing the same songs every week, week after week, because we've run out of material. Sometimes it feels that way. Because sometimes it's hard to find good songs. But we sing them over and over as an integral part of our formation, of our becoming. Here's the thing about words specifically. The story we rehearse is the story we live in, and the story that lives in us. The story we live in gets lived through us. The stories we run often are the stories running us. But through the life of liturgy, someone who carries the narrative, I am beyond repair, then stands in this room and sings, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I am found, was blind, but now I see. Something starts to shift. And when we do it week after week, with our voice, with our breath, with our body, with others doing the same thing, something changes. Not because we've decided mentally to believe it, but because the whole self was engaged in narrating it. Week after week, an old and tired story has the chance to lose its grip as a new life-giving story takes shape. Now we're about to land the plane. I'm lying. No. But this is where there's one other piece. Because I want to risk, I don't want to risk trying to explain this away. Because sacraments fulfill their purpose only when the Spirit comes to them. Without Spirit, the most beautiful liturgy is like sunlight shining on blind eyes, or a voice sounding in deaf ears, to quote John Calvin. The physical act is real. The human participation is genuine, but it's the Spirit who's not some mechanism we activate. The Spirit is a person who comes and interacts and transforms and heals and changes hearts. And I reckon the single greatest variable in whether the Spirit moves is not the quality of the liturgy or the skill of the musicians, it's openness. It's our openness. The spectrum runs somewhere from unbelief to unrestricted surrender, and every Sunday we come sitting somewhere in the mix. There's a quote. Yeah, we'll go to this quote, I think, just to kind of push it ahead. Last quote of the day comes from C.S. Lewis in his book on the Psalms, and I love this. This is going to lead into you learning a little song together. He says, I think we delight to praise what we enjoy because the praise not merely expresses but completes the enjoyment. I love it. It is its appointed consummation. It's not out of compliment or obligation that lovers keep on telling one another how beautiful they are. The delight is incomplete until it is expressed. It's not enough to look at a beautiful sunset and just think it. We have to go, oh, come and have a look at this sunset. Look at the moon that's rising over the horizon. It's not enough to read a good book and just hold it to ourselves. We recommend it. We go, you've got to read this book. It's so good. Or if you Gav Carroll posting into the musicians chat, listen to this song, Nora Jones singing Amazing Grace, because it's not enough just to hold it for ourselves. The delight is incomplete until it is expressed. And I think that's part of the invitation that we get every week. It's something we're hoping will happen every time we sing. Not decoration, not performance. A deep sense of completion of our enjoyment of God's restorative grace and love. So here's your moment. Caro, the only person who calls you Caro apart from Gav, Caroline, can you come up? You're going to be on this side here. Where's Eldorno? Eldorno, can you come up here? Great. Esther. Blister. Blester. Bestie. Sorry, yes, bestie. My bestie, Gav's bestie, everyone's bestie. Now let's just, this could totally fall over. It's okay. And then we'll start to head into communion. But can you all sing this note? Ooh. Nice and loud. Yeah, that's great. Stop there. Now, Eldorno's group. Or the one that I'm playing. Don't go up too high. Enjoy the mid-range. It's so good for you. Let's hear it. Okay, so in choir work, we would call that a 3 out of 10. I want a 6 out of 10. Let's go. Ooh. Can we join your note in? Ooh. Excellent. Stop there. Beautiful work. Let's add one more. We've got... Ooh. Let's hear it. Ooh. Ooh. Keep going over here. Ooh, in the middle. Now bigger. Okay, you're doing very well. This is amazing. Okay, so now, all I want you to do in this group is go, ooh. Everyone together. Even bigger. Lovely. All right. We're not there yet. All right. So now I'm going to teach you a short phrase built off this idea. And all it is more like Jesus. More like Jesus. Let's hear that. Just this group. Excellent. Now you're going to go more, same note as before. More like Jesus. More like Jesus. More like Jesus. Oh, I gave you a bum steer. Sorry. More like Jesus. There it is. More like Jesus. And again. Excellent. Now over this side. More like Jesus. Boys, pull it in. More like Jesus. Let's hear it now. More like Jesus. Everyone. More like Jesus. Now, all we're doing at this point is using our voices. So I'm going to ask you to stand for a moment. All right? And I want you to clap, not on 1 and 3, because that's how the white people do it. We're going to do it on 2 and 4. Like all good African-American jazz musicians and blues musicians and gospel. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. More Jesus. Let's hear it. I can't hear you clapping. Oh, 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 oh. I want to be more like Jesus. I want to be more like Jesus. Oh, yeah. I want to be more like Jesus. How goes that, right? Look what happens. You can take a seat. Final thoughts. I don't know what happened for you then. Just make a mental note of what happened before you started singing to when you started singing, when you started standing and clapping. Did something shift in you? Maybe it was something small. Maybe it was more than that. Maybe a little bit of joy entered where there wasn't some before. Your breathing changed. Your body was involved. You were making something beautiful with the people around you that none of you can make alone. And you were repeating words. The words, the catch cry of this church, more like Jesus. And maybe they're words you fully believe this morning, or maybe they're words you're working your way towards. That's not nothing. That's liturgy doing what Pinnock says it's designed to do, creating the conditions for the Spirit to meet us. We bring what we can bring, and then we wait. Speaking of Jesus, this chord is Jesus. It's known as G suspended fourth. It's G suspended fourth, but it is known as G sus. And it's a lot of us live in this place because this chord is unresolved. It's in the in-between. It's not there. It's leading somewhere. Maybe carrying, as we sit in that space, we're carrying things that aren't quite resolved. We don't have the words for yet. We haven't been able to put voice to certain things. Music and worship doesn't always resolve stuff, but it does give us somewhere to bring our unresolved stuff. And the Spirit, the one who is not a distant mystical presence, but a person with loving intention for us, the Spirit will meet us in the physical, in the unresolved, in the communal, in the song. I'm going to ask those that are helping helping on communion to come forward. We don't sing because we already feel it. We sing as part of a process of becoming the embodiment of the song. The embodiment of a new and life-giving story. And that's not manipulation or coercion, that's formation. That is the life of liturgy. This is the table, not of the church, but of the Lord. It is made ready for those who love God and for those who want to love God more. So come, you who have little and you who have much faith. You who have been here often and you who have come for the first time. You who have tried to follow and you who have failed, come. Because it is the Lord who invites you. It is God's will that those who want Christ should meet him here. Come.
Thank you so much for joining us. Each week at West City, we say a benediction together. We do this because we believe that the purpose of the church is to be a caring community for the world, and that as we go and serve others, we enter into Christ's work of welcome, restoration and healing, both for us and others. We believe that in doing so, we get to see and encounter Christ. So let's say the benediction together. We come together as the church to be reminded of the go of Christ. So we will go out and feed the hungry, go out and clothe the naked, go out and fight for justice, go out and end oppression, go out and proclaim anew the old story. Go out and associate with those who don't look like us, think like us, act like us, and don't even like us. And we'll do it all in the name of the one who sent us. His name is Jesus.